I'm Stewie 3D, and as some of you may be aware, I put a video up the other day saying that I was going to do a sort of semi-regular video podcast where I would be talking just over some gameplay footage about, I don't know, tech news and stuff like that. I was originally going to call it something plain, like, I don't know, tech talks or tech rant or something like that. However, upon speaking to Scazius at the weekend, we decided that actually that was too generic, and channels like Jay's 2 Cents and stuff would likely be doing the same sort of thing. So I've decided to call it Gobbin Off About Tech. Now, there is a logic behind that name. Basically, I used to be in the Navy for 6 years, and the Navy is full of all kinds of slang, most of which I cannot repeat on YouTube for fear of being branded some form of ist or what I say, some form of ism. So yeah, we're going to avoid a lot of the naval slang. However, gobbing off is basically it stems, as I said, from the Navy. If you're in like a back of a classroom, you've got the instructor at the front, and you're sitting there at the back talking to your mates. If the instructor sort of sees what you're doing, and he'll sort of shout, "Oi, you! Stop gobbing off at the back!" And it kind of fits with the theme of the podcast. Basically, it's me gobbing off about tech. I'll have a few guest contributors on, i.e. Scazius, and obviously if this does take off, then I'll get some of the viewers in on Discord to contribute with me. So so that's the name change out of the way. Basically, I'm also doing this live because I tried to pre-record it earlier, and I just lost all my confidence in it, really. So I just knew that if I didn't do it live, nothing would go up. So here we go then. So today's topic is Windows 10s. What the heck is the point? So if you've been keeping up with the tech news like I do, you'll realise in the last couple of weeks that Microsoft have announced a new version of Windows, or they claim to be a new version of Windows. It's not, it's just Windows 10 with a new name. And basically what it is it's basically if Microsoft and Apple had a love child, that Windows 10s would be it. It's basically Microsoft Windows 10 that we all know and, well, hate, but locked down so that only code from the Windows Store can actually run, and all apps run sandbox, and it's all extra hyper secure, basically like a Windows iPad. Now, they said, "Oh yeah, we've seen the Chromebook market. We want to get involved with the Chromebooks, and we want to get low cost, cheap education computers." So what do? They go and release it with a $1,000 MacBook clone. Yeah, that's really hardly low cost, but yeah. That said, I do see the point in Windows 10s, especially given the wake of the recent malware scandal that's gone around the world. All the ransomware, affecting the NHS and blah blah blah. So I can see why you would need something like Windows 10s. Now, obviously, it is very locked down, and obviously, who is the market for it? And I think, as I said, Microsoft have got it right in targeting the education sector, because if you remember a few years ago, some schools did it where they would give or at least lend laptops to what's the word underprivileged school kids, so kids who haven't got a computer or whatever at home. However, the problem is, you give a kid a computer, he's going to be looking to get his free MP3s, and him or her is going to be looking to get their free MP3s, free movies, and usually where the word free, where it's something you're meant to pay for, is concerned, you usually get a lot of nasties. However, if you've got a computer that cannot run said nasties, said child can go and stream is free content, which obviously is totally illegal, but they can go stream their free content. But then, without risk of suddenly the computer just becoming a massive virus fest. And I can actually see the point in Windows 10s that, for that reason. Or you've got a family member who doesn't want an iPad because they don't like the tablet form factor, but would like just a laptop so they can sit down with it on their lap. Because I have to admit, I've tried tablets myself. I've had an iPad, I've had a little cheap Windows 10 tablet, and I couldn't get used to it. I prefer to sit there with the laptop on my lap like this, rather than holding the tablet like that. So if you've got a family member, and I'll say an elderly or less tech savvy family member, a Windows 10s laptop would be quite good. However, the problem comes with Windows 10s is quite how much they restrict it. So the one big restriction is the fact that you're locked into Bing. You can't change your default search engine to Google. So to get a Google search, you'd have to manually go into Microsoft Edge, go google.co.uk or google.com and do it that way. Now, especially in the EU, I think that is going to cause Microsoft some serious issues. I mean, there was a massive problem with Internet Explorer years ago. They said, oh yeah, you've bundled Internet Explorer with Windows, it's stifling competition. Well, if you've now got a load of Windows 10s laptops which are only able to run Microsoft Bing, then the EU are going to have an absolute field day with that. However, if you could change the search engine to something you're more used to, so Google, I can see it. I can see the benefit of it really. As I said, a nice secure computer, and some big players have got in on there now. Apple have announced that iTunes will be coming to Windows 10s, and Spotify have now got Spotify. Well, they're going to have their client on there as well. So Netflix is already on there. So at the moment, just as a media consuming machine, I can see the point of it. The only downside is obviously we've got to wait to see what HP, what Dell, are going to come out with, whether they are going to be significantly lower cost machines. Because, if you've spent $1,000 on a machine and it's only running Windows 10s, you're going to be well knocked off. Okay, yes, you can upgrade to Windows 10 Pro, but then you lose all your security of your walled garden. I mean, obviously the cynic in me would say, well, it's only Windows hasn't sold that well, and Microsoft, wants to get their fingers in the old 30% of every app being sold. Oh, we'll have some of that. I mean, the problem is the main reason people go for a Windows machine in the first place is because you can run all of the old apps from years gone by. The fact is everything works on Windows, and we've had something similar before. So if you recall a few years ago when the Surface first came out, Microsoft released a version with ARM processors, which are basically the same processors you find in your mobile phones and your iPads. And it ran a version of Windows called Windows RT. Now, it's a very similar concept in the fact that you could only run Windows Store apps. However, the problem with Windows RT is the app developers didn't want to have to recode their apps for ARM and x86, whereas Windows 10s actually, there's now a tool I believe developers can use that allows them basically to just run a process, and it converts their existing apps into Microsoft Store ready apps. So I think because they've got that tool, you are going to see a lot more push onto the Windows 10 store. And to be honest with you, it all kind of works in Microsoft's favor because they're desperately trying to get Windows Mobile to be a thing. And the new gimmick with Windows Mobile is the Continuum feature. Now, me and Skazius have talked about Continuum in the past, because obviously the dream was back in the day you'd have your phone, which would be your camera, your sat nav, and everything else. And we've got that now. But one thing's phones, we've got so much processing power in our pocket these phones are now as powerful as laptops and stuff. I think they benched the new one of the new iPhones, and it was as fast as like an old MacBook Air. So the fact is, and Microsoft are trying to do it with Continuum. Plug your phone into a laptop dock or a piece or your TV, and then it suddenly comes into a little, turns into a proper fully fledged little computer. However, the problem is because they're running X8, because they're running ARM chips. Again, you're going to have issues. However, what Microsoft have got in the works now is basically a translator, which will allow standard Windows x86 apps to run on ARM-based hardware. Now, obviously, if you've then got iTunes, Spotify, all of the big hitters into the Windows Store because of Windows 10s, then it's going to be quite easy for them to then have it on the Windows Phone. And to be honest with you, I would like a Windows. I like the idea of being able to plug your phone into your TV and turning it into a full desktop PC, because you don't need a gaming laptop's performance all the time. However, sometimes you might want to just browse the web on a screen slightly bigger than a phone or a little tiny tablet. And so Continuum and all that comes in to play there. And I think what they're doing with Windows 10s is trying to force the hands of developers to get their stuff into the Windows Store. And I think in some ways it is a good idea. I mean, as I said, it could either go one or two ways. It could go that this becomes quite a big success. All the education institutes and businesses pick up on it, and it's brilliant. And I think, to be honest with you, with this recent malware attack on the NHS and all the big companies, certain businesses would welcome a highly locked down machine, which you could give to Muppet employees who are likely to click dodgy email attachments without worry of them actually breaking. The only downside which would prevent corporate use of Windows 10s or corporate adoption would be if you've got, say, hardware which needs specific drivers, and then the company who makes that hardware can't be bothered to make a Windows Store version, or likewise software. Because when I used to work for the police, I'm not going to name police force it, but we were using old Windows XP machines, and it was ridiculous, and I just can't believe that companies are still using Windows XP to this day. Don't get me wrong, Windows 10 isn't by any stretch a good operating. It's not bad. For me, it was enough to entice me back from OS 10 now. I've made the switch from Mac OS X, which I was on the MacBook Pro, over to Windows 10, and I have to admit I quite like it. But then again, I also make sure that my laptop is completely up to date, and if I'm searching and if I'm going on slightly nefarious websites for my free content, then I make sure I tend to do it on a device like my iPhone or a Raspberry Pi or something like that, something where I'm not likely to, or if I do get, like on a Raspberry Pi, if I do get an infection on there, which chances are you won't because it's Linux, but if you do, you can just nuke it and reinstall it straight away. And on your iPhone, it's very unlikely that you're going to find some code which will run, and cause your iPhone to go and have a hissy fit. So, as I said, Windows 10s, I think I can see the point of it. The problem would be pricing. If you can get a bunch of Windows 10s laptops for next to nothing, then I can actually see the education market really picking up on it, giving the kids the systems to take home and do their homework on without fear of them coming back full of viruses and broken. My work have issued me with a Microsoft Surface 3 tablet. Now, all I use on that is an app called Citrix Receiver to dial into the work servers, and literally then all I do on the work servers is fill in my timesheets and book my leave, and that is it. And but because we've been given these surfaces with administrator rights, I might add, with instructions on how to install them and get them all working. You know, I know a few of my colleagues who have gone out and stuffed iTunes on it straight away. Now, if one of my colleagues then was to go out and look at, you know, dodgy websites to, you know, find the next free Hollywood blockbuster, you know, being streamed illegally, all of those adverts on that website is just code and crap. You know, code and crap, which are going to cause systems to break. And that's where Windows 10s it would come in handy, because literally the only app we would need to dial into our corporate server would be Citrix Receiver, and I believe that is actually in the Microsoft Store. I haven't checked, but if Citrix Receiver was in the Microsoft Store, then my company would save loads of money, because we could get, if you could get low cost laptops which dial into Citrix Receiver, where the employees then can't go and shove dodgy software on it, you're going to be in a much better place, you know. And I believe that is where Windows 10s market is going to come. I do believe, as I said, likewise, relatives giving it to older relatives who are not as computer savvy. As I said, would you be, you know, if you were presented with a 200 quid Chromebook, 200 quid 200 quid Chromebook, 200 quid Windows 10s machine, or 200 quid iPad, what would you then get for your family member? That's the thing, you know, because Chromebooks, I've never really used them, but as far as I'm aware, they're just a browser with a few apps in, aren't they? You can do the basics, but you can't really do a huge amount in. iPad obviously is a tablet, and they're not really great for proper serious work. They're better at more content creation and stuff, hence why Apple are pitching it at content creators, you know, with iMovie and stuff like that. However, the iPad has got a massive range of apps, you know, and it can run obviously iPhone apps as well, so it has got a huge range of apps and stuff on there. And Apple have obviously been doing it since iOS 2, which is, God, what, 8 years ago now. So yeah, I don't know. As I said, I think it's gonna be interesting to watch it, really, how it does take off. To be honest with you, will it? You know, will they take off, or will it be another Windows RT? I don't know. It all depends on how quick the developers pick up on the App Store, really, because that's the problem. Windows 10 App Store hasn't got a huge amount in it. As I said, big hitters such as Spotify and stuff and iTunes are going across, so some big developers are taking it quite seriously. So it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing Google Chrome and stuff on there. That'd be quite interesting. But again, that then leads into another of Windows 10s's limitations, which could be problematic. You can download other browsers, especially if they're in the Windows Store. So if Chrome made it to the Windows Store, you'd be able to use it. However, you can't then set it as your default browser. So any links you click in emails and stuff will open in Microsoft Edge. So, you know, at that point, why would you bother downloading a separate browser? Because, you know, I downloaded Chrome and I've set it as my default. You know, I don't know. I think in its current state, in its current announced state, Windows 10s is slightly too restricted because of the search engine limitation and the inability to change default browser. But I think if they sort of lifted a couple of the restrictions off it, I can see it actually being a fairly decent competitor to, say, the iPad and the Chromebook market, especially if enough developers decide to package their apps for the Windows 10 store. I think it could be a winner actually for Microsoft, but it would all depend on how the other manufacturers, so HP, Dell, and all of that, how cheap they can get their machines, because there's no point in having this Windows 10s operating system, but then it will only the only machines you can get it on are like $800 plus machines, because at that point you just go, oh, screw it, just buy and pop a laptop at that point and play games on it and whatnot. So yeah, as I said, I think they need to get it into the schools. And the other thing with Windows 10 S as well, I wouldn't be surprised if at the moment you can run an unlicensed version of Windows 10 and still get updates and all the other stuff for it. When I used to run it on boot camp on OS 10, because I use Windows so infrequently, I never actually paid for a license. I just I lived with the fact that I couldn't customize my background and stuff like that. I literally played a couple of games on it, and that was about it. However, if Microsoft turn around and goes, well, there you go, you can have Windows 10 S for free, put it on your system, you'll have a license key, download Windows 10 S. I could see it becoming quite popular there. You've gone and built a very low cost machine, or maybe even bought second-hand laptop off eBay or whatever. And I don't know what's going on here, but my frame rate is proper plummeting for whatever reason on this game. I will check that out in a bit. I believe some crap's probably running in the background. Yes, Scazius. Yeah, no, you could be right. They could be too stupid to accept Windows 10 S. Yeah, that is the other that is, and you do raise a good point there, that actually, people might see a Windows 10 S computer and think, wait a minute, why is it not able to run this app? My other Windows 10 computer can. Not actually realise that it is limited in what it can do. So yeah, you are right. It could potentially be a confusion, because with obviously Apple, the way they do it, you've got iOS 10, which is iPads, iPhones. That's locked. You know that it's a walled garden. You can't do anything else in it unless Apple have said yes, you can do it. Whereas you can then go out and buy a MacBook Air, and that's full flavour Mac OS, and you can do whatever you want on that. It does come locked down initially to App Store only, but you can flick a switch to allow it to run other apps. Whereas, as you said, Windows 10 S and Windows 10 look and feel fundamentally the same. And yes, you are right. It could be a confusion to the average consumer. So yeah, these kids have been given these laptops from the school, and then suddenly wonder why they can't, install stuff on there. And it also raises an interesting point, because I do believe Kodi is now in the Windows Store, but Kodi is allowed to run. Kodi can run third-party extensions. So could that be a potential backdoor into the bulletproof security of Windows 10 S? Because obviously, with iOS, they've said, look, you can't put Kodi on there purely because you can install extensions on it. So that's why you're not allowed Kodi on the App Store. However, as I said, I do believe there is a copy of Kodi in the Windows 10 App Store now. Will there suddenly now be a Kodi where you can't run the extensions? Because if so, then that's going to be a weird issue as well, and very confusing for a lot of people. But yeah, but saying that though, I was joking with Skaz this morning that this ransomware is a bloody good advertisement for Windows 10, because I jokingly sent him a message saying, Microsoft to users, do you want to please upgrade to Windows 10? We'll give it to you for free. No, don't want an upgrade. No, don't want an upgrade. Oh, okay. Please upgrade. We'll install it for you. No, I don't want to upgrade to Windows 10. Oh, okay. All right then. We're not bother. Suddenly, ransomware infects all the old machines. We're not supporting these old machines anymore. Yeah, okay, no problem. We'll happily stick with our old machine. We don't want Windows 10. It's spyware. You're spying on us with Windows 10. We don't want it. Okay, no problems. Ransomware comes out, takes out 200,000 of the world's computers in some pretty big institutions. Oh, crap. We haven't got no patches. Oh, no. Let's buy Windows 10. We need to get Windows 10 now because that's the only one being supported. But then Skaz turned around and come out that actually it's probably a better advert for Apple, to be honest with you. But then again, Apple are not immune either. because just recently there has been a virus come out on Mac. A very popular app on Mac is an encoder called Handbrake. It allows you to convert your videos or rip DVDs to iPod format. And basically, recently, I believe May the 2nd to May the 6th, if you downloaded a Handbrake, you had a 50-50 chance of getting a virus on the Mac. So even the Mac isn't immune, as everyone used to think it was. I mean, I remember when I first switched to Mac, it was great because I had a Windows XP machine and then I switched to Mac, and then every time you searched on the internet and you'd see the pop-ups and they go, your computer's at risk, with a Windows XP looking pop-up. Yeah, that doesn't affect me, I'm on Mac. But yeah, as you said, Skaz, no system is secure for human interaction with a system. Yeah, basically the only truly secure computer system in this world is basically you put it together, you install an operating system on it, then you lock it in the safe. You never connect it to an internet connection. You lock it in a safe, and then you go bury it in your back garden. That is the only truly secure computer system in the world. But then again, nothing is truly secure. You got your pen and paper records, so all someone needs to do is break into there or for a fire to happen. Nothing is really truly secure in this world. Just some things are easier to break than others. And obviously Microsoft are pinning their hopes on the fact that Windows 10s is in the harder to break category than the than current Windows is at the moment. So yeah. Well, I think I've rabbited on enough on this podcast. As I said, I decided to do it live because I did try to record it earlier, and I was bottling it. I was just like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, no, this isn't going to make much sense. And I am intended on doing a episode with Skazius where we talk about laptops and if you're in the market for a gaming laptop. And yeah, I've just seen your comment come in, Skaz. Yeah, Windows 10 Lite, that would be a better name for it, to be honest with you. Windows 10, you can't do nothing. But yeah. So no, as I said, this has been a rambling podcast, but hopefully, as I said, it's been informative to some degree, I guess. And I will try and upload versions sort of semi-regularly. But I think I think I'm just going to do them live, to be honest with you, because if I pre-record them, I probably just won't have the balls to do it. So I'm going to do it live because I've jumped in, I've done it, and I've created some content. So if you've got any comments or suggestions or topics you want to be discussed, obviously leave it in the comments below. If you think this was a load of crap, then obviously leave some constructive criticism in the comments below. Let us know what you think, how I can improve it. Then obviously I'll take that on board for future episodes. So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye bye.